Got the game on in the background. All right, I think we're all set.
All right.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to D Suite Nation. Welcome to our first ever special live episode where we're going to take some time to get to know Ray, get to know our host. I have a plethora of questions I'm going to ask Ray, questions that he doesn't know about. He said he was open to anything. Everything was fair game. So we're going to ask him a bunch of questions. And everybody in the chat, go ahead and submit your questions via the comments. And we're going to answer those as best we can as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Let's see here. Make sure our comments are up.
I might have bit off more than I could chew saying just ask random questions.
All right. So, Ray?
Yes, sir.
The floor is yours. Why don't you go ahead and say hi to everybody and we'll get started.
Hello, everybody. Right now, we're at Fenner & Sons Barbershop in Burton. And Greg Fenner, who is the owner, been a good friend of mine for the last 20 years, just got a seat in the Burton City Council. So I want to say congratulations to Greg. Now, I told you 20 years ago you should have ran for office, okay? So I was right. Just for the first time in your life, just say, Ray, you were right.
Ray, you were right.
Okay, thank you. How's everybody else doing, man? I'm doing all right.
All right, Ray, we're going to go ahead and get started with some of our first questions.
God help us.
Right from the beginning, first thing I want to talk about is just, why don't you talk about like your family? Give us a brief introduction to who you are, your family environment, mom, dad, siblings, those kinds of things.
Okay. I'm the youngest of three. My father, who passed away in 2012, he retired from General Motors. He was a health and safety rep. He retired in September of 2000. And my mother, who worked 25 years in the county courthouse, she retired in 1991. She was 45 years old when she retired. So she has been retired for 28 years now. And she's 73 years old, healthy, does a lot of traveling, doing really good. I have two older sisters, Michelle, who's 46 years old, and my sister Angela, who is 49 years old, is a principal here in the Flint School District. Angela and my father are the primary reasons why I love sports the way that I do, which is they're like the reason why I'm here now. More family stuff. I've lived in Flint all my life. The Asensios, they've been here for 100 years now in Flint. They arrived here in 1920. So there's a lot of Asensios. There's a lot of us here in Flint. I have a cousin, Chris, who owns a barber shop. He's had since 1993, Asensio's Barbershop. My uncle, Jesse Asensio, was a boxing trainer for Circa Boxing. And then I mentioned my sister, Angela, earlier. She deals a lot with the Flint Olympian Games and the Canusa Games. And she teaches tennis, and she's been doing that since the 1980s. She's, without a doubt, the greatest female tennis player that was ever from Flint. So we've been here a while. We've made our mark, and we do the best we can.
All right, cool. So we're going to go ahead and get started with my questions. Like I said, anybody watching, feel free to type in your questions in the comment, and we'll get to some of those, and we'll answer those as best we can. So Ray, right off the bat, I know you're a sports guy. That's why we're here. What are your favorite teams?
My favorite teams, first and foremost, is the Michigan Wolverines, football and basketball team. I don't like one better than the other. I like them both equally. Even through the Brian Ellerby and Tommy Amaker years, I still love Michigan basketball equally as I do Michigan football. Even though it's a football school, I love both sports. Michigan is my favorite team. I'm also a Detroit Pistons fan. I would say the Detroit Bad Boys are probably my favorite professional team of all time. I like the New York Yankees are my favorite baseball team. And then other than those three that I just named, Michigan, the Pistons, and and the New York Yankees, I kind of, I do a little hometown thing. I like my Detroit Tigers, and I even cheer the Lions on when I can.
I was going to say, what about NFL teams or even hockey, NHL teams? Do you follow hockey much?
I was just talking to my buddy about I'm not a big NHL guy, but I kind of wish that the Red Wings didn't lose their streak of consecutive years playing in the playoffs. I like the fact that they're, one of the original six. I love the tradition that the Red Wings have. All the enforcers that ever played for that team, Steve Yzerman coming back. The guy who was named Mr. Hockey is a Detroit Red Wing. So I have a lot of, pride when it comes to talking about the Red Wings. I'm not a big hockey guy, but I do get behind the Red Wings.
Okay. All right. Tell me, what was your first memory of sports? Like what, as a kid, what was your first memory of
1982
sporting event,
okay,
playing sports, anything that created your love for sports?
Okay. The first sport that I loved to play was basketball because, back in those days, people had a rim on their garage, which you don't see anymore. So I shot baskets, every day in the driveway. As far as going to a sporting event, as soon as you asked me that question, the first thing that came to mind was 1983. It was the summer of 1983. Me and Mark Izagari, who's a good friend of mine, our fathers took us to Tiger Stadium, and we seen the Milwaukee Brewers and the Detroit Tigers. We're sitting upper deck in left field, and Robin Yount, who played for the Brewers, he was playing left field that day, and he was probably 50 feet from me, and my eyes were glued on him the whole time because I loved Robin Yount. I remember the Tigers won that game 9-3. That was back, a year before the World Series. Gibby, Lance Parrish, Trammell Whitaker, Tommy Brookins, Chet Lemon, Larry Herndon, Sparky Anderson. That was my first memories, was going to Tiger Stadium in 1983 for the very first time on Michigan and Trumbull. And as far as playing sports, just shooting around on the basketball hoop that was on the garage.
Okay, all right. So, who was your most influential coach or person in your life as far as you playing sports?
Okay. I would obviously say my dad, but I'm gonna be a little more creative. I'm not gonna include my dad, so I'll name somebody else. It would be my high school football coach, Joe Ufinger, who's in the Hall of Fame, and my strength trainer at the time. His name is Hezekiah Ross, but people in Flint know him as Rip. He was a legendary boxing trainer for a gym called Elms Park Boxing Club. Rip, I'll talk about Rip first. Rip, he always had a gym in the area in Burton and Flint there, Rip Spring Training Gym. He's from down south. He is 100% natural. He doesn't even believe in drinking water when he's working out. He's all natural. He don't take supplements. He don't do vitamins. He's never drank or smoked. When you look at this guy right now being 70, I believe he's 77 years old, and you look at how shredded he is, that is all natural. He believes that if you want good results in a good physique, you have to go out there and do it. He doesn't believe in taking anything. The only thing that he did when he was working out, he used to drink hot sauce. He was a hot sauce drinker. And he used to have me on the soapbox derby at Southwestern Academy. We used to run up and down. We used to run backwards up and down on that soapbox derby. And we used to skip all the way there and all the way back. And then he had me skipping backwards all the way there and all the way back. He's the guy that I call, like a time like now where I put on a couple extra pounds, a little out of shape. If I want to be in shape in 4 weeks and want quick results, I go to him. He's still alive. He still trains people. He believes now in more like resistance training and stuff like that. So he's the guy that I go to when I want to get in shape. So he's one of the two guys outside of my father that is the most inspirational as far as me being who I am. Now, Joe Ufinger, who I mentioned as the second guy, he was my varsity football coach at Flint Central High School. Now, when I got to Central in 1991, I never played organized football. I just played in the street like everybody else did, or played at the, on Sundays, played at the elementary school, 11 on 11. Never played organized. I was too skinny. I was skinny, long neck, big head, big ears. I like playing basketball and tennis and bowling and baseball, that kind of stuff. When I got to 9th grade, I wanted to play football because I'm going to Flint Central High School, and I know chicks love football players there because it was a football factory. I got there, played JVs in 9th grade, and had a decent season. When I got to the varsity level and played for Coach Ufinger and Coach Hollick and Paraskis, they were plus I had Mr. Ufinger as a history teacher, and I was his service student. I don't know if they still do service students in high schools now, but service student is when you're in a classroom and you're not like a member of the class. You're just like his or her gopher. They need something done, you go do it. You get credit for that. And we used to talk a lot in there. Now, I remember one time, this changed my life forever. We were in class and we were talking. And we used to eat rallies all the time. He used to send me to rallies to get us food. And I remember I asked Mr. Ufinger, I said, Coach, I'm having trouble. I said, when I explode off the ball, George Gaddis and Nate Braswell and Mark Eckel, I said, I can't get through these guys or by these guys. And he's taking a bite out of his hamburger. He said, hit him in the mouth. And he said it again. He said, hit him in the mouth. I know what he meant by that. He didn't mean punch him in the mouth. What he meant was to compensate for like the leg strength that I didn't have, like these guys had in the, benching weights, like they did. What he meant by that was when I get in my 4-point stance, as soon as the ball moves, hit him in the mouth real quick. It was a technique. It's like cat quick. You'll stand him up, and that'll buy you a little time. So, like to this day, when I play football, I hit people in the mouth coming off the ball. So I get low, and I come under you and hit you in the mouth. Because I'm not a big, Olympic weightlifter and all that stuff. I had to find other ways, and he told me to hit people in the mouth. Now, we had a good year my junior year. We were 9-0 in the regular season. We were number 1 in the state at the end of the year. And then going into the state semifinals, we were 11-0, and we were ranked 22 in the nation, USA Today. I know Greg remembers that good team. And we lost to Westland John Glenn that day, a team that we shouldn't have lost to. But if there's anything positive that I've ever done on a football field, that is 100% coaching. Those guys coached boys into men. And I don't think that I could have been a good football player anywhere else because Mr. Ufinger, this is a guy who played at the University of Purdue in the mid-'60s, played with Bob Greasy, and they won a Rose Bowl together. And in 1971, he put a black bear on his back. There was a traveling bear that traveled the country for 4 years. And there was 2 guys that pinned this bear, a guy from St. Anne, Missouri, and Mr. Ufinger. And I have a picture of him on top of that bear. So that's the guy that was training us. And when I played for Ufinger, he wasn't that old yet. He was still in his mid to late 40s and could still get his message across, like physically, if he had to do it, if you weren't doing it right. So Rip Ross and Joe Ufinger, outside of my father, are my two biggest my two biggest influences ever in sports. The day that I lose them is going to be very, very difficult, but they'll be here for a long time. They're in good health, and I love both of them.
All right. Sounds good. So we all know you have a podcast, right?
Sure.
That's why. What was the reason you started the podcast?
All I do is talk about sports. You would be surprised at stuff that I don't know how to do. Now, anybody that's known me for a long time and is watching this, they can verify that I'm telling the truth as I say this right now. I've never changed a tire on a car. I don't know how to cook. I can't cook anything. My idea of cooking is making a bologna sandwich with extra mustard. That's my idea of cooking, with Ruffle Lay's potato chips that are $1.89 at Kroger because I don't like to spend money. What else don't I know how to do? Dan, you should know right now with this technical stuff you talk about all the time. I never know what the hell you're talking about. Never know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, we know that.
But I was blessed with a good memory. So I'm able to like remember like games that I watched when I was younger. I always paid attention to the games. I go to games. I like watching it. I like teaching it. I used to like playing it when I was healthier, obviously. And I'm on social media all the time, talking about sports, but I kind of want to, podcast is like the thing to do now. So why not put this on a public forum for everybody to see? And anybody who is into my old school stuff and talking about sports and legends, I welcome anybody. So I like to talk about sports. So this is what I do in my spare time, and it's fun.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And for those of you who you don't know, like Ray and I used to belong to this Facebook group called Sports Question of the Day, right? And I really believe that Ray was like one of the most active people on that page, and he was always putting out these questions that were very intriguing and got a lot of responses.
I started that page,
page.
Did you know that?
Okay. Yep. Yep. So, back then when we were on that page, that I knew that something like this was going to be in your future.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
The one episode, or not episode, but the post that I remember the most was you actually went live on that page once, and we had this huge debate about the college football playoff at the time, the teams that were in there. So that was very well done. So I'm not surprised that you're doing this now.
Thank you, Dan.
So everybody knows the name of the podcast is D Sweet Nation, right? And what some people may not know is that name comes from a very close person in your life named Derek Sweet. So why name it after Derek, and what did Derek do to influence this?
I wanted to name it after him. I've known, let me see, Derek is 3 years younger than I am. I've known Derek since he was 3 years old, and we've always been close. Derek's a great person. Derek doesn't do drugs. He's a war veteran, served our country. He's like the best father ever to his kids, lives life the right way. Me and him, like basically all the sports I like or what he likes. I'm really like his big brother. So like a lot of stuff that I like, he likes. And I just love what he stands for. And he has been the most supportive of my idea. He actually believes that like this will be a major podcast in the upcoming years. He told me that like a month ago, like before I interviewed Dre Weathers. So I wanted to honor him. And I also want to put it on record that he is alive, because a lot of people say, "Oh, did he pass away?" He's alive, very healthy. He works down in the Detroit area. Has been at the same job for 13 years since he got back from Iraq. He went back to work, and he's working at that same job. And we actually took a cross country trip together about a year ago. And he's my best friend. And I guess this can be a way of just saying thank you for being my best friend, and I love you very much. And so that's why I named it after him.
Oh, that's awesome, very awesome. And for those who don't know, Derek does help us out a little bit behind the scenes. We're trying to get him more involved, so we just want to give a shout out to Derek. He tried to be here today, but he was unable to make it. But you'll probably be seeing him in the very near future. So Ray, like I know you're a guy that's very big on respect, right?
Sure.
You've a lot of people know that about you. Some people do know that about you. That if you're close to you, or if you just meet Ray, he's very big on respect. What influenced that in your life? Who or what influenced that?
Going back to Mr. Ufinger, Joe Ufinger. When I was in school, I had an ego like some of the other football, and basketball players there, because we were kind of protected, out there, and I had a big mouth and all that. And Mr. Ufinger asked me, and I'll never forget this. It was in the classroom, and I was a service student. He asked me, "Is it more important to you to be liked or respected?" And the answer I gave him at the time was respected, but I only answered it that way because I thought it was the right thing to say. But I actually understand what that means now. So like at a time like now, and I like to think that I've been like this for a while. I really don't if I don't like a person, or if somebody's getting on my nerves, I just don't have anything to do with them anymore. I'm not mean to them. I don't talk down on them. It's just easy to tune people out because I don't care to be liked by them. And that can be interpreted as being an asshole, which I'm not trying to be. But I represent my father 24 hours a day, everywhere I go, and I like to be a reflection of my father. So it's more important to be respected than liked. If you like me, that's fine, But I think that's how that came about, is Mr. Ufinger and wanting to be a reflection of my father.
All right. Okay. Going back to family and those people that are most influential to you in sports, what family member or friend was most supportive of you in sports? And if it's a different person, who was your biggest cheerleader?
I would have to say my cousin Tony Asensio was my biggest supporter, because when I was young, not like little, but I'm talking about like into junior high school and high school. When I was little, my dad took care of everything and made sure I got here and this and there. And then after a while, kind of like when my dad's health kind of started to take a little downward spiral, Tony kind of took on that responsibility, made sure I got here on time, always made sure I was involved in this. If there was a basketball tournament to be played in, he made sure I was in it. When I had to go to bowling, he picked me up and dropped me off. He came to all my games. So I'd have to say my cousin Tony Asensio was my biggest supporter when I was younger.
Okay. So part of this process for me coming up with some of these questions for Ray was reaching out to some of his family and friends, trying to get some, I wouldn't say dirt, but funny stories, things I should bring up.
Anything you want.
And Derek helped us out with that. So my question to you is, we want the story of this event. So
do you want the official or unofficial answer? I'll give you the official one if you want.
We want the real truth.
Okay.
Sir. Okay. So there was Derek said when you were kids, you guys did a lot of hardcore wrestling, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So I guess there's a story involving hardcore wrestling. Your friend
Kyle. Yeah, referee.
And it's something about, he said Kevin got power bombed.
Kyle Carroll
On some ice.
That was Kyle Carroll. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, give us that story.
All right. Derek and myself and our friend Kyle that you just talked about, and our friend Dan, who lived next door to my parents, we were big wrestling fans back then, and we used to like Extreme Championship Wrestling, which was ECW, where they use foreign objects all the time, and which is not a good idea. I'm not endorsing it in any way, shape, or form. So if any of your kids are watching this with you, everything I'm about to say, I don't want you to try any of this stuff.
Don't try this at home.
Derek and I decided, this was the only reason I remember the date, because I watched the video a million times, and it's got on the old camcorder, it's got the date and time and all that on the bottom corner. February 1999. We decided that we were going to have a match on Sunday. Kyle was our referee, and I think my sister Michelle is the one who recorded it with the old school camcorder. And Derek told me, he said, Ray, when this is on camera, don't worry about hurting me or whatever. He said, just when you hit me with something or do whatever, he said, I want you to go 100%. He said, because if you don't, I'm not going to sell it. I said, okay. We had stop signs, yield signs. We had a belt that had barbed wire on it. I threw him in a picker bush that cut him up pretty good. Now everything that I'm saying that I did to him, he did to me too. What else did we do? Okay. He actually sustained an injury on that day that still affects him now, unfortunately. My sisters, they had bunk beds when we were growing up in the house. And the bunk bed ladder was still in the basement, a wooden ladder. Probably, if it was on the ground, it was probably this tall. So I decided to use that as one of my weapons that was in my shopping cart. When I went to hit Derek with the ladder, now I hit him as hard as I could, thinking that the ladder was going to shatter and break all over the place, but the ladder didn't break. And Derek ended up hurting his lower back. And it affects him now because he walks a little wobbly. I mean, you wouldn't be able to notice unless you say, watch him walk later, and then you'll notice it. But yeah, I ended up injuring him with that ladder. And we had like a Pennzoil oil thing. I hit him with that. Now, another thing we had was a little yellow children's book. It was just something that you see like at the doctor's office or at a hospital, where kids have books and toys and all that stuff. There was a little children's book because his niece was probably like 2 years old at the time. Probably had 30 pages in it, just a little book. He hit me with the book on the head, but Derek didn't know that in the middle of that book, it was like really, really hard. It was really hard. And when he hit me with the book, I fell back and I was like in a daze, didn't know where I was at. And then he like got on top of me and he kept repeatedly hitting me with that book. And I really I was like in a paralyzed position for like 15 seconds. And I couldn't get words out of my mouth because I would have told him to stop. And he just kept hitting me with that book. Oh, Ray, man, that's great acting, man. That was a great fall you just took. Bam, he hit me 3 or 4 more times. And then after I shook the cobwebs off, I took that same book, grabbed him by the back of his head, and I hit him as hard as I could with that book. Then I got on top of him and hit him with that, and he had knots in his head. And so we both got injured doing all that stupid. Oh, we also used ladders too. Like I would throw him into a ladder in the corner, and then when he fell down, the ladder like fell on top of him. We used to do stuff like that, which is dumb, but we were fans of that ECW back then, and those were some of our hardcore matches. We actually got injured doing that, and it's just we never did that after that. Now, Kyle, on the other hand, who you just asked about, this was in the wintertime when we did this. It was in February. Kyle, you know how sometimes wrestlers will mess with the referee and jerk him up a little bit? Kyle, let me see. At that time, Kyle was he was probably about 13 or 14 years old. I didn't like the way he was calling the match, so I ended up kicking him in his stomach, and I picked him up, and I dropped him right on his head on a big sheet of ice. And he had like a big bandage going from like here all the way like on his neck. Like half of this was all like a cast. I messed him up. I didn't mean to because I was trying to drop him on his back, but he wasn't really cooperating all that much. I dropped him on his head. So that's where the Kyle thing comes about.
Okay.
Yeah. I know that. I'm glad we could laugh about it now because if we were like to do all that stuff now, we wouldn't even last.
I would say there was a lot of teenage boys back in those days that emulated a lot of those wrestling moves on each other.
Yes. Now, to Derek's credit, though, to give him credit at that time, because this was like 5 or 6 months before he went into the military, Derek was a very skinny, fragile kid, vulnerable kid. So, like in 1999, at that time, I was benching like 385 pounds. I was big and shaped, strong, mean. And he encouraged me to go like real violent on him. So I did. But I let him do the same thing to me too. And I got hurt also. Man. I ultimately ended up on an operating table in 2008 because I had L4, L5 surgery. It wasn't solely because of that, but that contributed. It helped.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say so.
Yeah.
All right. Before we go any further, I want to give a shout out to those of you that are watching. I see there are some people out there watching. If you're watching, hit that like button and go ahead and submit some questions so Ray can answer them. All right, Ray, we're going to get into some personal stuff now.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to bring up your love life, right?
Which one?
Is there any? Oh, which one?
I mean,
okay.
Because I like.
I was going to say.
I fell in love with a lot of people.
What's your love life status now? Is there a special lady in your life? Is there one that got away? Let's start right now. Is there a special woman in your life right now? Anybody want you?
No. No, there's not.
Like potentials?
No, because I haven't really had time to like go out because I'm never home. Because the only time I'm home is on Saturdays, which is now, and I'm always like out of state. If I'm ever in a situation where I can hang out a little bit more, I would like to hang out with somebody. my priorities certainly would be different now because I'm not like who I was when I was in my 30s and 20s. I would be more appreciative of a good woman in my life.
Okay.
And and this time I'm not going to like rush it like I've been known to do. We'll get into that in a minute if you want. But no, I'm not going to rush it. Just going to let it happen this time.
Okay. So is there a, like I said, one that got away, someone in your past that you just, man, I wish that wouldn't have ended.
Okay. I know who I want to say, but I'm not sure that if I should say her name.
Okay.
But I will. I will anyway, because I'm not doing anything wrong. Oh my goodness. I can't believe that I'm getting ready to say what I'm going to say. Okay.
I think I know the name that you're going to say. Too.
No, actually, I don't.
No?
I don't think that you do.
No? Okay.
I don't think I've
All
ever
right.
talked about
Okay.
this one with you. I don't think.
Okay.
1986. Okay, I was 9 years old. I was in third grade. My first crush that I ever had was a girl named Alisha Barker. Okay, I met her in kindergarten. I was in love with her in kindergarten up until third grade. I was always in love with her. And we had a clique of friends at that time when we were real little. Me, her, my friend Eric Crawford. We were like all very close. Eric was like Eric Crawford, matter of fact, Dan.
Yeah.
We, like I said, we were very close. And Eric was like, in those young years when we were little, all the girls liked him, Alisha Barker included. Now, she moved in 1986. Now, I knew, even at that young of age, listen, I promise you on my father's name, I mean this when I say this. I knew when she moved that my life was going to be different without her in it. I didn't know how it was going to be different. I just knew it was going to be different. I did not like the fact that she was moving. She moved, and she moved to Ortonville, over in that area off the M15. And I ended up seeing her again in 11th grade when I was at Central High School. Our friend Laura Ball, who was her next door neighbor, Laura said, "Hey, Ray, guess who I seen the other day?" I said, "Who?" She said, and Laura and I were in class together. She said, I was at Alisha Barker's house over the weekend. You know, she asked how you were doing and this and that. Oh, I was like, awesome. She said, what are you doing next Wednesday? I said, nothing. I said, why? And I knew where she was going with this. I said, why? I said, what's going on next Wednesday? She said, well, I'm going to Alicia's house. And, she said, if you wanted to come with me, you could. I said, okay. She said, don't you have football practice? I said, don't worry about football practice. I said, I've been late and on time for 3 years. I never missed a practice ever. I don't need to go to that practice. We went to her house, talked, caught up, and let me see, probably for like the next 4 weekends, me, Alisha, and Laura kind of hung out a little bit. Alisha had this long Lincoln car. It was like the size of the Titanic. She would come pick Laura and I up, and things were going pretty good. And I'm thinking to myself, now, I don't know if I should mention her name. Jackie was my girlfriend at the time, who you also know very well, Dan.
I do.
And I think that's who you thought I was going to say, wasn't it?
I did, yes.
That's not it. Her and I were together at the time. Jackie and I were together at the time. And I was very much in love with her. Like, I would never cheat on Jackie for anybody back then. When Alisha and Laura and I were hanging out, like the 3 or 4 times I got to hang out with them, I thought to myself, man, this, the more that this goes on, I might take Alisha out on a date by myself eventually. So we made one day, here's where it all changed. One day they had Laura and Alisha had plans to come over, and we're going to meet Eric Crawford. For the first time, this never happened in a year and a half. Jackie came over my house unannounced, and I didn't know she was coming over. And my dad was not home, who would have bailed me out of that situation somehow. Alisha and Laura came over. My girlfriend is in the house, and I'm sitting there like a dummy, don't know what to do. I want to go with them, but my girlfriend was there. And I was ready to give her walking papers for Alisha. Jackie showed up. I never went with Alisha. I never seen her after that until 2017. And that's the one that got away.
Okay.
Now, with that said, she is very happily married. Okay, she's been married for 21, 22 years, or whatever. She has a great husband. They have a great family. They travel and all that stuff. She couldn't be in a better situation. I'm very happy for her. So if it wasn't me that she landed or whatever, I'm glad that she's with him. Now, one more thing I'm going to say about her. I really believe, just like I knew when I was 9 years old, that this was going to affect my life with her not being in it. I really do believe that had she not moved, or had we hung out more, maybe during high school, whatever, and maybe if her and I got together, I think that she would have been like influential. Like I would have went to college. I would have did things differently because she would have been the one that could have kept me in line. No one else I ever been with couldn't keep me in line. Which is, I'm not proud of that, but Alisha would have been the person. That's the one that got away.
Okay, all right.
And I hope that when her and her husband watches, I hope they don't take that the wrong way.
Congrats to Alisha and her husband. Here at D-Sweet Nation, we're not about breaking up marriages. That's not what it's about.
No, I know, but she already knows this stuff anyway. But we're great friends now. When I've been through a few hard times that I have in my losing a couple family members, she's always the first one to write me a letter, and we're great friends, and I like where we're at now, and that's the way it's gonna stay.
Great. So all you single ladies out there watching, you guys know many single ladies. Hit us up on the Facebook page, YouTube channel. We'll get you out on a date.
Hold on now, because I do have a preference now. I don't. I do have a preference. I ain't gonna have some big humongous. Don't be. I ain't available to everybody now.
Big girls lead up to.
I'll be lonely before I'm with some. Go ahead, man. I better. All
right. So just for those of you that don't know, Ray grew up in Flint, played sports at Flint Central High School, correct, Ray?
Yes, sir.
So describe the atmosphere or the culture, if you will, of playing sports in Flint at a big athletic school like Flint Central.
Okay, I'm glad you asked me that. When I got there, because in junior high school, 7th and 8th grade, I went to Southwestern Academy. And my sister Michelle graduated from there. My oldest sister graduated from the old Flint Academy, which I know. Do you remember that school, Greg, Flint Academy? Okay, they eventually emerged with Flint Southwestern, which is now, for a lot of years, it was Flint Southwestern Academy, which is now Flint High School, who, like, all my football players coach that school now, Andre Weathers, Fred Jackson, and all them. But when I was at Southwestern Academy in 7th and 8th grade, I loved it there. And my sister graduated in 91. And then my dad had told me that I was going to Central next year, 9th grade, because he wanted me to play sports there. I did not want to go to Central. And I tried talking him out of it. He just wouldn't allow me to stay at Southwestern. I wanted to stay there. I made good friends. I did not want to leave any of them people. Now, when I got to Central, I remember playing summer basketball on the JVs. Okay, this is 1991, the summer of 91, going in the 9th grade. Now, my birthday's in September, so technically I'm still 13 years old in the summer of 91. I get to the first basketball practice, and these guys are throwing alleys, and I mean, they're jumping out of the gym, all the, high fly dunking like you see now. And that was like a big, I never really played in an atmosphere like that, because before 8th grade and before that, like when I was at Potter School, I was always the best athlete there until I got to Central, and I seen that. I'm here with NFL and NBA players now. It seemed like, and that was like a big culture shock. I mean, these guys were great athletes, and in the long run, now, I was just telling my friend Phil this the other day. My athletic director, Fred Ireland, passed away 2 months ago, and later, when I found out later on in the night, I did cry for a minute in my basement when I thought of Fred Ireland. And then I thought to myself, had my dad not made the decision that he made, sending me to Central High School, meeting the people that I met, and I still get together with my football guys, crying when Fred Ireland passed away. That would have never happened had my dad not made the decision to send me to Central. And so for that, I'm grateful that my dad made that decision. And fathers always know best. And playing in the city, Dan, it's like basketball in particular. It's running, and running. You know, when you're at the open gyms or when you're at the parks and recreation, or when you're at a practice at Central, Southwestern, Northern, or Northwestern High School, or even Beecher, you have to run. It's a track meet. And you don't see, there's no backdoor cuts in the city, okay? You don't see teams dribbling the clock out. It's running. And these guys will run you out of the gym if you're not in shape. So I learned that playing sports in the city, that you have to be in tip-top condition to run and keep up with the athletes that came from there, from yesteryear, today, and the evolution of the athletes that are to come. So it's all about running.
All right. We've actually got our first comment question that I'm going to go ahead and ask.
Okay.
And it's from someone you might know, a Natalia Sweet.
Okay.
She wants to know, do you have a favorite sport? I think she's trying to ask, do you have a favorite sports show? Do you have a favorite show out of sports?
Yes.
I think she's trying to say, do you have a favorite sports show?
My favorite sports show to watch, and it's the only show that's worth watching on anything, is ESPN 30 for 30. I like watching all the documentaries. I don't watch all that PTI and Around the Horn, all them schmucks talking about sports. I like to watch the 30 for 30 because I like to learn about the stuff that they had to go through and persevere through. So Natalia, yes, that would be ESPN 30 for 30. I do not miss those documentaries. I watch all of them. It's my favorite show. I love it.
Watch every single one myself.
Yes. Yeah. And I will recommend, I think that like my favorite one, I have a couple favorite ones. The Detroit Bad Boys one, obviously. I like the one on the Baltimore Boys, the one that featured Muggsy Bogues, Reggie Lewis, Reggie Williams, and David Wingate when they all played at Baltimore Dunbar High School. And then I think the one that everybody should watch, whether you're a sports fan or not, you need to watch Fantastic Lies about the Duke lacrosse scandal, because that's got everything in it: money, greed, race, color, lies. From an educational standpoint, everybody should watch ESPN 30 for 30 Fantastic Lies about the Duke lacrosse scandal.
If you haven't seen the one about Dennis Rodman yet either, that's a fantastic 30 for 30 episode about Dennis Rodman, the one on Dennis Rodman. Mm-hmm. I love the one about the Fab Five as well myself.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. I did like the one about the Fab Five. Yep, you're right.
So you said something when you're answering the previous question about going from Southwestern to Central High School, how the level of talent kind of was elevated, right? Mm-hmm. So did that affect your level of play? Playing with those guys, everybody knows you could list names a mile long of pro athletes or next level athletes that came out of Central High School. Did playing with those guys elevate your play at all?
Yes. I'm going to get into football as I answer that question. Played JV football. Like I said, I never played organized football till 9th grade. Played JV football, but when I got to the varsity level, and in the early 90s, Central was a powerhouse in football, because Saginaw Arthur Hill in 91, they had won this, and they're in our conference. They won the state championship in 91. They lost in the championship in 92, and then we beat them in the 93 playoffs. But the thing about when I got there, to answer your question, Dan, is when I got to the varsity level, like guys who are my brothers now, my best friends, guys that I would do anything for, and they would do anything for me. Tyvon Love, Torrey Robinson, Mark Eckel, Tyrus Fowler, Glenn Griffin, Fred Jackson, Andre Weathers, all these guys. I don't think Nate Braswell, another guy, the late Mark Clements, classmate of mine who passed away, Stan Brown, Mike Beasley. I don't think that some of the upperclassmen really had a lot of respect for me when I got to the varsity level, because I really hadn't proved anything yet. And we were playing, let me see, my junior year, this was in August. This was on a hot August day. The linemen used to get together on the corner here, and we used to practice. Mr. Ufinger used to go over stuff with us linemen here. He was late. So Randy Scott had the bright idea that he wanted to play bull in the ring. Do you know what bull in the ring is, Dan?
I think so, yes.
Okay, bull in the ring is where you get in a circle and there's one guy in the middle. And you basically just point at somebody and then you just go at each other. That was Randy Scott's brilliant idea of wanting to kill time. Was basically us killing each other. That's JV stuff. That's stuff that games that people play in the JV level. Because when at Central at that time, the varsity level was like more of a business thing. But leave it up to Randy Scott. I want to do that crap. So what ended up happening was, I'm not going to say who it was, but the guys that are listening, they all know who I'm talking about. I decided that I wanted to go after Randy. I wanted to be the guy in the middle because I wanted to get it out of the way and hope that I lived. I seen Tyvon and Torrey standing side by side. I said, I'm going at them first, get them out of the way. Boom, hit him. Boom, hit him. Then I went down the line. I knocked somebody out. I'm not going to say his name, but he was like one of our best players. Knocked him unconscious, knocked him out. That was the first day that the guys knew that I could hit and knew that I was serious about playing. So that kind of elevated my confidence, and I was able to knock out somebody like that, like knock him out cold. I hit him in the mouth, like Mr. Ufinger said. Hit him in the mouth. Hit him in the mouth. And playing with those guys back then, like in practices, I played O and D line. You had to be tough to play with these guys because these guys, like Tyvon, like literally try to hurt people in practice. You know, if you ask Randy Scott to this day, who's the toughest team you ever played against, he'll answer the guys that I played against in practice. And so to be able to survive that, earn a little turf, earn those guys' respect, guys that I respect and put on the highest pedestal, you had to be tough to survive all that. I did the best I could. I got licked a bunch of times too, but you know, here we are. You know, I see these guys twice a year. You know, we just had Dre Weathers on the show 3 or 4 weeks ago, and
shout out to Andre Weathers.
Yep, and that's how it was back then, man. You had to earn your respect, especially with those guys, because all these guys grew up on the South Side over there by Coca-Cola, Lapeer, and Dort Highway over in that bad area, and those were all my friends, and those are the guys that like I often credit of putting like toughness in me, you know, being able to handle myself, whether it be on the football field or on the street. It's because of those guys. Those guys raised me when I was in high school. So yeah, you definitely had to elevate your game, either because if you didn't, you were either going to quit or they would run you out of there.
Okay. All right. So before we get to more questions, I kind of got a little surprise for you. So,
oh boy,
for those of you out there watching, Ray, like myself, we both love food, love to eat food. One of Ray's favorite food, Italian food, right, Ray?
Sure, that's my favorite food. Yes.
Okay. So something that you let me in on is that you've never tried a certain Italian dish.
Wait a minute.
Right? So
oh my God, you got to be
great idea. Ray, he's never had spaghetti. He kind of has this fear of spaghetti. So I thought it would be a good idea to let Ray try some spaghetti live here on our show today. Spaghetti's delicious, Ray. I love spaghetti. I could eat it every day of my life.
Do you have a little basket, Greg?
If it's gonna make you throw up, we don't want it.
Do you have a basket? I'm not gonna throw up, but do you have a basket? Oh my God. Okay, hold on. While Greg is getting that basket, just to be safe, let me explain the spaghetti phobia. I was 5 years old. My sister Angela was 12 years old. Walking in the hallway, Angela's throwing up in the bathroom. And you know, when you're 5 years old, you're like, oh, that's gross. Just put it right there, Greg. Oh, that's gross. Mom, I said, what's the matter with Ange? My mom said, oh, it's probably that spaghetti she ate earlier, making her throw up. To this day, I've never tried spaghetti because it's just a fear that I'm going to throw up. Now, my phobia used to be so bad that, like, if I went to somebody's house and they were eating it, I would make an excuse that I had to leave. It's not that I'm scared of it, where I'm going to start shaking or anything, but, like, if you were eating spaghetti, I'd be like, dang it, man, I left my wallet over there, man, then I'll be right back, and I just wouldn't come back. But now I'm to the point where, like, people can eat it in front of me, and I won't be scared of it. But you actually want me to try that spaghetti?
I want to, yes. And now, let me say, I had mixed feelings about popping this on you, and so I did reach out to Derek. I got his opinion. He said you'd have a good sense of humor about it, so that's why I did that. Wow. I don't want to make you eat it, but I think it's a good time for some therapy.
Listen, I'll tell you what. I love this show. People are watching. My friends know that I've never had spaghetti before. I will take a couple of bites out of that for the better of the show, just to show that I'm a team player. I love this show. I'm happy for the support. So I'm going to show my gratification. I'm going to eat 2 bites of that spaghetti, and that's it. Paper towel so I get rid of this gum, Greg. Oh my God! Who put you up to this, Derek?
This was my idea. I have to take
This was
ownership
your
of this.
idea?
It was my idea, but I
Thank you,
did
sir.
reach out to Derek just to make sure that you were going to rip my head off when I pulled the spaghetti.
I'm
out.
gonna rip your head off. I can't believe this.
So
Oh,
just
my
close your
God.
eyes and just smell how
Give
good
it
it
here.
is.
Give it here. Oh,
It's actually from Sicily's right down the street. We'll give them a shout out. Got that?
all right.
From Sicily's Pizzeria.
Oh,
It's so good, right?
I don't even know how to.
Twist your fork. Twist it up on the fork, or just scoop it up in there.
Oh my God! How long are these? Oh. Well, no, I just got that
us
one
spaghetti
long
is,
one.
We just put it in my mouth, and you just suck up those noodles.
I don't want that long noodle in there.
Hit that spaghetti. Hit that spaghetti in the mouth, Ray.
Hold on. I can't believe this shit. I cannot believe this.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Breakthroughs here on D Sweet Nation. It's so good, isn't it?
Good one, Dan. Good one. I did it.
What do you think?
I
What do you
did it.
think? Honestly.
I mean, it's not that I didn't think it would taste good. It's just I always felt that I'd throw up eating it. That's the only food on this earth. And he's right. Italian is my favorite food. I've always had a phobia. I'll throw it up if I eat it. But it tastes like a lot of other Italian food that I've had before.
Pasta and sauce, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So I did it.
I'm proud of you, man.
I can't believe this. Man. There's going to be some people that are not going to believe that I did that.
Well, we got it on video now.
Good job, Dan. Good job.
All right,
Hey, it's for the show, man. It's for the
I'm glad
team.
you had a good sense of humor about it.
I'm a team player. I can't believe I just did that and didn't throw up. I knew that I was going to be able to take a bite out of it because when I had it in my hands, my heart wasn't beating fast or nothing like that. So I was kind of thinking, I will be able to do this. So I did it.
the way you were fucking around with those noodles, though, I had to question.
I'm not going to be on here
gonna
sucking up noodles that are 15 inches long.
Oh, sorry. All right, let's get back to the question.
Oh.
All right. So your previous answer is going to lead into this question right here. So, what, if anything, held you back from playing sports at the next level?
Didn't have the ambition for it. When I was a teenager, out of high school, pretty lazy. Didn't have a lot of goals. Just lazy and no ambition. I'll be straight with you, Dan. That's what it was. Obviously, if I can go back in time, Boston College heavily recruited me in football. I probably would take that up, but lazy.
All right. Okay.
Lazy and spoiled. I was spoiled.
Growing up in the city of Flint, also being a minority at that time in the city of Flint, what did you do, or was there someone that more had an influence on you? But how did you stay out of trouble?
I stayed out of trouble, number one, because I was afraid of my dad. That was one thing. When I say afraid of him, he wasn't an abusive father. It was a respect level. My dad was a large man. I was afraid of him, and I loved to play sports. My dad had me involved in all the sports. So when I wasn't going to school and practicing sports and playing sports, I was sleeping. I mean, that's all I did. Sports kept me out of trouble.
Okay.
That was just my outlet to stay out of trouble. Now, here's the thing about growing up where I grew up. This more so happened when I was living in Arizona. There's a terrible misconception about especially out there, for people who've never been to this side of the country, people that know about Flint, they automatically assume that I was in street gangs and, oh, this Mexican guy from Flint street gang and does this and that. I didn't grow up that way. I had two parents. Like I said at the beginning of the show, my dad retired from General Motors, the health safety rep. My mom worked in the county courthouse. She was a clerk. And I, like even here in Flint, like people that I grew up with, they think, they kind of thought that that we were, like, the misconception was that we were kind of soft, because we weren't in street gangs and did all these drugs and always in trouble. Our parents, were very, very wealthy. They always took that as like me and my sisters weren't like tough or something like that. Which, when we grew up, they found out otherwise. But I like to think as my situation as being very unique. I've never smoked marijuana in my life. Okay. And my family, cousins and all that will verify that. Yeah, raised never. I just, and I don't frown on people that do. I'm just saying I've never smoked marijuana. I don't know how many 42-year-olds that are healthy that born and raised in Flint can say that. You know what I mean? I'm proud to say that. And I wouldn't smoke a joint like I just ate that spaghetti either. But I was fortunate that that I had the parents that I had that set an example of showing up to work on time, all the time, working for what you got. And like my dad told me, not my dad, Mr. Ufinger, you should always want to be respected other than liked. So sports, had I not played any sports, I don't know what how life would have turned out for me. If I would have not played sports, or if I would have grew up in a broken home, I might have went down the wrong path. But I was very, very fortunate to have the parents that I had, kept me in line.
Okay. All right. Let's get into some fun questions. So let's steer to some sports questions here. Very quickly, what's your thoughts on today's NBA versus NBA in the 90s when we grew up? I should say.
Well, I was talking to my buddy Marcellus earlier. He's actually going to be a guest on our show on December 14th. We'll write that date down later. We're going to get into a lot of that. But obviously, I can't really say. I mean, I know the evolution. I understand the evolution of the athlete. I get all that. And I understand that, like, we're plastered on social media, seeing these kids in layup lines doing these dunks where they're jumping 60 inches in the air. And I get all that. But so what was the question? Like, are you asking me what was better back then or now?
Well, I know you and I have talked about the differences of the NBA in the 90s versus today, like the toughness, the physical nature of the NBA.
I believe if I was 18 years old and I could pick 5 or 6 guys from my day at that same age, and we played against 18-year-olds now, I think we would roll them very, very easily. Depending on the rules that we're playing on, okay? Yes, I understand these guys can jump and run a lot faster than I can. But,
like, I guess what I
but when you watch today's game, when you watch all these dunks and games, they're moving out of the way. Guys are moving out of the way.
Right.
Did you ever see Charles Oakley move out of the way?
Nope.
Bill Lambier move out of the way?
Nope.
Maurice Lucas? You ever see any of them guys like that? Anthony Mason?
Dikembe Mutombo? No, those guys, yeah. Nobody got out of the way. They were going to put you on the floor, so you didn't try to do that again.
I will say this about today's game, though. You take like the previous 5 years Golden State Warriors team. When you got guys that can shoot like that, you can compete in any era, because that's the great equalizer, is great shooting. So that. But that's an exception, though. And then you got LeBron James. I'll give him credit. If he would have played back then, people talk about what a sissy he is and all that, crying all the time, and he does a lot of crying. But how would Michael Jordan fare back then against LeBron James if hand checking was allowed and LeBron was allowed to hand check people? So Kevin Durant, I think, would have been a good player back then. But, like I tell everybody, you can put your all-time NBA team together. It don't matter who it is, and you can leave the 21st century out of it. You can make an all NBA team without any of these. Well, Tim Duncan and Kobe and LeBron might be,
Right.
but
I definitely think some of these shooters are guys that like James Harden, even Steph Curry. I think Steph Curry would still have been good and still score points, but with the type and the physicality of the defense that teams played back then, I don't think they would be putting up these 50-point games, 40, 50-point games all the time, shooting 10 threes and, multi-step back three-pointers that they allow today. The softness of the defense today is something that I think about.
Yeah. And there's so much I can say about that.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. So we'll go into this question then, since you asked that. Give us your all-time starting five, NBA starting five.
Okay.
Your opinion. Okay. This is opinion based only.
I'm actually going to this is going to be the first day I make a change. I've had the same starting five since 1989, 88. I've had the same starting five. I'm actually going to replace somebody because I think this is the time to do it. Now, had you asked me that a couple years ago, this is what I would have said. I think everybody should have Magic Johnson in their starting lineup because he is by far the greatest point guard of all time. No disrespect to Oscar Robertson or Isaiah Thomas, but Magic Johnson is the greatest point guard of all time. You got to have Magic on there. Now we're going starting five, like position by position, because I have two different starting lineups. Like I have my best five, period, and then there's my starting five. I'm gonna give you my starting five.
We'll do your starting five.
Okay. I got Magic and Michael. Okay.
I think
at the 1 and 2.
Duh.
Yeah.
When you say that.
At the five position, I got the greatest player to ever play the game, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The best to ever play the game. Now, I have Larry Bird. Who was the other guy I had? I had Mike, let me see. Magic and Larry, Mike, Kareem. Man, who am I missing?
Who's your power forward?
Tim Duncan. I have Tim Duncan.
Okay.
I have Tim Duncan. I'm pretty sure that was my starting five. Those five that I just named was Tim Duncan. So actually, I'm not. No, when I say I had the same for the last 30 years, that was my all-time five. That was the one where I was going to make a switch. As far as position by position, it's Magic, Michael, Kareem, Larry, and Tim Duncan.
Okay. All right. So real quick, because we got a couple more questions to get to. We're running short on time.
Okay.
And I just want to ask you this because you said that. Name a current starting five. Build your current starting five that would have the best chance to take out that starting five or compete. Because I don't think anybody could beat that starting five. I
got LeBron and Curry. Man, I hate to leave James Harden out, but I got LeBron and Curry. I got Kevin Durant. I have Kevin Durant. I got to have a garbage man, like a guy who does a dirty work. So I know he's a center, but I'd put Joel Embiid in there. Joel Embiid. And I was really happy that he got into that fight the other day with Karl Anthony Towns. No, nothing against Karl Anthony or Embiid, but it's good to see people that actually care about playing basketball and will actually fist fight over. It's good to see that again. So I got Curry, LeBron, Joel Embiid. I got Durant, and I got the Greek Freak.
Greek Freak. Okay.
The Greek Freak. That's the five. And I think Kevin Durant would be the hardest to handle for the old guys.
All right. Okay, so for those of you who don't know as well, a lot of people know that you are a big wrestling guy.
Oh, yeah.
Huge wrestling guy. So give me your ultimate tag team match, right? So two faces, two heels from any organization you can pick from. 2 versus 2, go.
Oh, man. Let me see. As heels, it would have to be the Road Warriors. of the.
Now, it doesn't have to be a team. You can
It doesn't have to be a
match
team.
up any two wrestlers.
Oh, okay.
Like a dream tag team. Doesn't have to be a tag.
Gotcha.
They don't have to be part of a tag team. But I'm talking like you could have Hogan and Stone Cold versus two other guys. Like who's your?
Okay, that way. You want to do it that way.
Yeah.
Let me see. I would have Roddy Piper back in his bad guy years, early years, mid 1985. I would have Roddy Piper as one of the bad guys, and I would have him team up with. Okay, this is going to surprise some folks here. This is going to surprise you. You probably never heard of this guy, and I encourage people to look him up, not just as a wrestler, but how he acts on a daily basis and the stuff that he's done in the ring. I would have Roddy Piper, and I would have a guy named New Jack. He was ECW wrestler. This guy got in trouble a couple of times. He was stabbing people in the ring, like where they actually shot in the ring, like he felt he got punched too hard or whatever. This guy stabbed a couple guys. Now, he's best noted for, I loved him when he was in ECW, but there was a kid, a fat kid out of the crowd. Like he was 16 years old at the time. His name was Mass Transit. Just remember that name, Mass Transit, New Jack. This fat kid actually went to the ECW dressing room and convinced Paulie that he had a wrestling background and he was trained and Killer Kowalski trained him and this and this and this. He lied about everything. Devon Dudley needed a tag team partner. So he was able to conjure his way in there. He got involved in this big fat kid, Mass Transit. Remember that name? And New Jack. He asked New Jack in the dressing room, will you cut me? Because in the match, in the hardcore match, I want to get cut. New Jack said, sure. Yeah, I'll cut you. New Jack had one of those surgical scaffolds inside a piece of wood. And when I say stabbed him, the kid almost died. He had blood gushing out. And he beat the shit out of this guy. So Piper and New Jack are my bad guys. My good guys would be Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Hulk Hogan, man. Hulkamania days.
Okay.
Steamboat and Hulk Hogan.
Good answer.
Steamboat was the ultimate baby face. Everybody loved Ricky Steamboat.
Right.
So, guy looks like he can wrestle now. He's in great shape. He's like 65 years old. So, Steamboat and Hogan versus New Jack and the Hot Rod, Roddy Piper.
Okay. All right.
Make sure you look up later on New Jack and Mass Transit, what he did to that fat
Mass Transit
piece of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question here, real quickly from the comments. What do you think of Eddie Soto from Colleen Soto?
What do I think of Eddie Soto? Okay, Eddie is my uncle. Obviously, being Mexican, I have a lot of relatives. Okay, Eddie is by far my closest uncle. He supports everything that I do. My uncle Eddie, he has 10 siblings and he's in the middle. This is my mom's brother. He, out of all his nieces and nephews, and there's like 30 or 40 of them, me and Chris Asensio, the barber, Chris is his favorite one. And then me and him are his favorite. And he would literally do anything for me. When I moved to Arizona, when I got there, before I went to work, he gave me some money and always made sure I was okay. So he's my closest uncle. He loves Elvis Presley. He's a good guitar player. He's got that good black hair. He's not like bald or nothing. He's still got good hair. He always carries a brush. And when we were little, on Easter, all his nieces and nephews, we always wanted to hit him with an egg, and we were never able to. I think my sister got him on the last time we spent Easter at my grandparents' house. So that's my uncle, and he loves me like a son. Eddie doesn't have kids of his own, so like me and my cousin Chris are like his sons.
Okay, awesome. If you could hang out with any three athletes for a day, right? Somebody says, you're going to go hang out with these three athletes for a day, kick it, go have lunch, golf, go out for drinks, dinner, whatever. Who are those three athletes going to be?
Isaiah Thomas.
Past, present, or dead or alive. Anybody.
Oh, okay. Isaiah Thomas, the Detroit Bad Boys Isaiah Thomas, not that little short Webster with the headband that can't play. I'm talking about my Isaiah Thomas.
I actually met him once in Denver. He's actually a good
Isaiah?
guy. Isaiah Thomas. The new age Isaiah Thomas.
Isaiah Thomas, Hector Macho Camacho. And I would hang out with Isaiah Thomas, Hector Macho Camacho, and Bob Probert.
Bob Probert. Wow. Okay. Why Bob Probert?
Like I said, I'm not a big hockey nut, but I love Bob Probert, man. I loved all the fights we had with Ty Domi and Troy Crowder, Stu Grimson. He made hockey enjoyable for someone like me who don't even watch NHL hockey. I love Bob Probert. So, yep, God rest his soul and God rest Macho Camacho. And it would be those two and Isaiah Thomas.
Okay. Last question I'm going to ask you here. You and I both have very big ideas and broad hopes for our podcast, the thing that we're doing here. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? And where do you envision this podcast at in 10 years?
10 years, okay. Probably in a big city where there would be like former like pro athletes or whatever. I would be, if I was going to be in a warm climate state, it would be Phoenix, Arizona. But if I don't end up going back there, I would love in 10 years to be either in, this is like if this were to go big, if we were to go big and make big money, I would like to be in New York City or New York City would be the other one. In New York City, or if I want to be in a warm climate, I probably want to be in Phoenix, Arizona, because I think it would be easier for me if this was my full-time job where I can, like, when I wake up in the morning, I'm got my notebook and I'm doing stuff. Like right now, I'm always on the road. But when there comes a time where we can, like, you and I can put all these ideas together 7 days a week, I would like to be in Phoenix, Arizona, New York City, or if I'm still here in Michigan, probably like metropolitan Detroit area.
Okay. Anything you want to say to the people out there before we take off?
Yes, I want to say, I've gotten some good responses and good support, and Dan and I really appreciate everybody that supports this podcast. Like I said, we're just guys that like to talk about sports. We like to honor the old school guys. We just stuff we talk about at the bar or in the living room. We just want to talk about it here. I hope that my delivery, the way that I do things, hopefully you enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, then tell somebody you don't like. Say, yeah, watch that Rays show. He'll put you to sleep just so they watch it. But we're just guys like talk about sports, man. And it's positive. I think we send good messages out. I think for the most part, it's a friendly podcast for kids that are, up and coming. There's a little profanity in there, but I just want to, with some of my experiences and some of the experiences of my guests, hopefully that will give some like kids that are maybe from a broken home, maybe don't have much. Hopefully this show can show them a little bit of light and let them know that you can make it. And so it's all about being positive. This show was meant to be positive, and I hope that everybody enjoys it. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up today. Running short of time, we got to get out of here. Big shout out to new City Councilman Greg. Thank you for letting us do this here. It's a great spot. Shout out to everybody who's watching out there. Colleen, Derek, Natalia, Melissa. Thanks for watching. Thanks for submitting your questions. One more thing about Greg. Badass racquetball player in his heyday. But he used to play in those competitive leagues, and he used to play against guys that were like 20, 25 years younger than he was. He used to roll all them guys. I even got out there, tried to play racquetball. I couldn't. He had me running around. But I told him that's not my game. You want to ever step on the asphalt and play tennis, I'll get you there. But no, Greg was a very good athlete, good racquetball player, and he's going to do good things for the city of Burton, as he's already done for the last 30, 40 years with his father's barbershop that he took over many years ago. So blessings to the Fenner family.
Thanks, Rick.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. We're going to get out of here for today. Thank you guys very much. Look out for the next episode next week. We're going to have another great guest. Until then, we'll see you guys later.
Is it off?